Welcome back to round 4 of the Charlotte Legacy League Players Tournament, Bant Beans versus Yorion, Death and Taxes. A huge thank you to the Patreon supporters who are helping the league and YouTube channel. If you would like to become a supporter, please click on the link in the show notes. Game 1, both players are kept 7, and Connor's going to be on the play. Connor's running his traditional Yorion, Death and Taxes list that he has been playing for about a year now, and ever since he won the top 8 tournament last year, for the Charlotte Legacy League with Elves, he's now moved over to Yorion, Death and Taxes. He's going to lead off with a Thalia here. Andrew just with a Savannah. Andrew playing with his, of course, beautiful dual lands that he has, Beta Savannah, Beta Underground Sea. Like, how can you just not enjoy playing against him no matter what he's playing because of his cards? Andrew's playing a pretty traditional Beanstalk control list. It's a 4-color as well. With it having Bowmasters, Triumph St. Catherine, Murktide Regents, Plowshares, 1 Terminus, 2 Lord Revealed. You'll be able to check out the deck list later on in this match. Speaking with Connor before this match, he told me that it is not a easy matchup to play for Death and Taxes, even though he is playing for Spirit of the Labyrinth. They just have so much removal for the Spirit of the Labyrinth, like you just saw there, with another Bowmaster, and along with Swords of Plowshares and everything else that the deck can accomplish, especially like once they get 1 or 2 beans out in play, and they're now going up cards when they cast their larger spells, which the deck tends to do pretty well. Even though it runs strictly dual lands, maybe 1 or 2 basics, it seems to just always have enough mana for everything. Connor's going to do his best here to keep Andrew off of blue mana, it looks like here, taking him off the Trop and the Underground Sea. It's a pretty smart move on Connor's part, especially, like I said, they always have more mana. So no matter how much you wasteland or anything like that, they tend to find it. Another 2 coming across at Connor on the Bowmasters, and see if he has a beans to play as well. So 2 mana, and there is the first bean of this match, drawing him into yet another mana. So now every spell that Andrew casts that costs more than 5 mana, 5 mana or more, is going to allow him to draw a card off of it. So if he 2-for-1s himself with a Force of Will, he still gets to recoup a card off of it, which is where you see the true power of beans. So Andrew does have the Force of Will in his hand with a blue card. So he's going to mix this up. It is Force of Will being played and Force Negation being pitched, and then a trigger off the beans for him to recoup a card. So it does miss that trigger there, unfortunately, but it is a May ability, I think. I'll have to double check. It looks like he just realized he missed the trigger off the bean. So in terms of it being a May ability, it is whenever you cast a no, it's not a May, so it's just a missed trigger at that point. So these things happen. He's in well in control of this game at the moment anyway. Connor running out of cards. I can definitely feel Connor's frustration. I played against Matthew Story, one of our other Beans players in our league, who also played Beans in this tournament as well. So another Force of Will on the Recruiter, a trigger on the Beans. Andrew was sure not to miss it there. Anyway, I played Matthew Story at F&M this past Friday, and had to play against Beans. And I will say game 1 was very difficult to play against. I was actually playing Connor's D&T deck that night. And Beans is a tough matchup for Death and Taxes, especially once they get those Beans online. I was trying to restrict his mana. Again, he just kept drawing it out. I never found any Rashadan Ports to kind of keep him tapped down. And then, like, once the Murktides and the Triumph of St. Catherine start coming out, it becomes a really difficult game for us to overcome all of the value that Beans brings. So it's kind of what Connor is struggling with here. It looks like he does find a Solitude. So got a Solitude trigger coming out. And it looks like Andrew does have a Leyline Binding in his hand. So he will pick up some life here, but the Leyline Binding will probably pick off the Solitude. And then at that point, Andrew gets to draw another card. So he's constantly replacing... all right, yeah, we got a fetch here. Mystic Sanctuary. I don't even know if he puts anything back on top. We got a Bean, trigger again, and then, yeah, so he gets to draw a card off the bean. Like, just so much value. There's a Triumph of St. Catherine that he did just miss on the miracle for the following turn, but he has 6 mana in play. I don't think it's going to be an issue for him to recover from that, because he'll get to play his Triumph of St. Catherine, and then he'll get to draw a card off the Triumph of St. Catherine as well. So there's a Terminus he can float if he wants, but it looks like he's going to shuffle that away and just take a fresh off the top, which is a basic plains. And then he can play his Triumph of St. Catherine and draw another card. And, God, there's so much happening here. So Triumph comes down to 5/5 with lifelink, gets a trigger off the beans, picks up a Terminus, well in control of this game. Not much Connor can do because he's only drawing 1 card a turn. Pass back over to Connor, see if he can draw maybe a Stoneforge Mystic or another Spirit of the Labyrinth, maybe a Thalia, something to get something out on the board. Flicker Wisp wouldn't do very much here. Flickering, actually, a Flicker Wisp could be pretty strong. He could flicker the Leyline Binding and then get that Solitude back out, hit the Triumph of St. Catherine, and then the Leyline Binding comes back out and either has to take the Solitude or the Flicker Wisp that just came into play. So that is an option if he does pick up a Flicker. He does have a Flicker Wisp in his hand, so I'm speaking a little, I guess, into the future maybe. But he does have the Flicker Wisp. We'll see if he actually does exactly that, which is flicker out the... All right, he doesn't. So looks like he's probably trying to play around maybe a Leyline Binding. So that'd be... All right, draw for turn, Swords of Plowshare. Jeez, he just really has it all here. So he can Swords the Lion Sash, which typically would be enough to... All right, so we got another Leyline Binding. So hitting the Lion Sash, trigger on the beans. Man, these beans. Maybe we should make a trigger counter for how many times beans goes off. That's crazy. All right, so Lion Sash out of the play. We've still got a Force with a blue card. We do have the Flicker Wisp. Got 7 coming across here, putting Hunter down to 4. And we'll see how he wants to play this. He can flicker. Man, there's a lot happening here. You got a Brainstorm. Just draw. So much card advantage from the Beans deck is just incredible kind of thing. So it's like he's looking at putting the Terminus back on top, floating it. No need to float it though. He's in well control of this match with the swords in hand as well. And all right. We'll see what else. A second, Jesus. So many cards drawn again. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what the sideboard is going to look like in a game 2 here. Getting a little ahead of ourselves, I guess. So sideboard-wise, got Leyline of the Void from Connor, Rest in Peace, Gravedigger's Cage, 2 Council's Judgments, Path to Exile, 2 Surgical Extractions, Containment, Kataki, Peacekeeper, and then, of course, is Yorion. Another Bowmaster coming into play, just piling on this board. I don't think Flicker Wisp is going to be enough to work through all of this. Here's the Flicker. Imagine he hits it for the Solitude, takes out the Triumph of St. Catherine, and then the Leyline Binding comes back into play. Not cast, so he doesn't get to draw off the beans. So we got the Solitude coming in. Take out the Triumph, putting Andrew up to 34. No cards in Connor's hand either. So, man, that's kind of tough. We'll see. 3 life. Bowman. He's just that. I think he's too wide of a board for Connor to overcome here. Instep. All right, we've got Leyline coming back. He doesn't have to pay for it. So Leyline comes back, grabs the Solitude, I'd assume. All right, grabs a Flicker Wisp. And then, okay, Andrew's not going to get the beautiful beta Swords of Plowshare. Connor gets to live another turn, it looks like. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4 damage on board at the moment. Connor's still porting them down. Wing and a Prayer. 1 damage to go. And let's see here. 1 white mana. Oh, no. All right. Well, let's see. He has another Leyline Binding in his hands, too. Jeez. All right, so we got 4 coming across. Connor going down to 2. Still plenty of time in this match for Connor to play. We got 36 minutes left. So off the top, doesn't look like it's gonna be enough. We'll see who he wants to play. So Stoneforge and Hardcast Force of Will will do it. See you in game number 2.
If you've been enjoying our content, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
Welcome back to game number 2. We talked about Connor's sideboard, and we just saw Andrew's deck, so let's take a peek at what Andrew could have brought in this. He does have Leovold, which I don't think is too big of a deal, but an Oppo Agent's really good. A Plague Engineer is really good. I can see some Surgicals coming in, as well as Pernicious Deeds. Everything else in the sideboard is pretty medium to nothing. Actually, it's not even medium. It's nothing against Connor's deck. The Carpet of Flowers, the Spell Bomb, Hydroblast, Fluster Storm, not that big of a deal with the Veil of Summers either. So we'll imagine probably brought in the Surgicals, Plague Engineer, and the Pernicious Deeds in this game number 2. Connor tries to get a Aether Vial out, but it gets forced and negationed as it should. It's a beating for the Bant or for the Beans deck because he can flash in Spirit of the Labyrinth in the face of a Beans or even a Brainstorm or something along those lines. Connor's got his port online, and we'll see how he carries this game number 2. Another Underground Sea from Andrew, and let's see what Connor wants to bring out. So, all right, we've got Plains, and I hope you guys and girls and whoever else is watching are ready for a long haul here. We've still got about 25 minutes left of this match, so some good Magic to be seen still. So port down on the Underground. Andrew picks up just another one off the top. Again, talked about in game number 1 how this deck just seems like it has unlimited mana, and he's not even doesn't even have Beans out or anything like that yet. So it's pretty impressive. Connor's playing it low and slow, which I also did when I played against the Beans deck in game number 2. I held everything back a little bit. I got out a Thalia and a Lion Sash and equipped it to the Thalia so I could dodge a Terminus and be able to keep one creature out, which is a pretty neat play you can do with the Lion Sash. I'm going to buy Yorion, and we are sitting pretty heavy in our hand, and we're just doing some draw goes and land drops, which is not what the Death and Taxes deck wants to do, but it looks like Connor's decided that he's going to be the control deck as opposed to the aggro deck here, and work it low and slow and grindy the way that Death and Taxes likes it. He wants Andrew to play his game. He doesn't want to play Andrew's. So let's see if we're going to get any creatures in play here, or we're going to just keep doing land drops. Another port. All right. So able to keep him off green mana this coming turn, as well as probably tap down another black. So white mana is available. We'll see what he wants to do. Maybe keeps him off white, maybe keeps him off green. So a Triumph can't come out, especially when to tap down that white during the upkeep. So no Miracle Triumph of St. Catherine can come out. And then he'll draw, and then he'll tap down that green mana. So no Bean mana and no Triumph mana. Of course, Andrew does pick up another land and has another one in hand. So just no matter what you do, it's like a Delver deck when you wasteland them 4 turns in a row and they still play another fucking land. It's just impossible. Connor's going to need to get a board state going here if he's going to try and close this game out. He does find the Thalia and plays it out. So Andrew allows it, having unlimited mana as the Beans players always do. We'll see a Bowmaster come into play, targeting the Thalia. With the Karakas bouncing the Thalia back, it means no Orc Army is going to come into play. That was a judge call that I was called over for to make sure that is how that truly worked. And then upkeep draw, and then we'll tap down the... All right, so no Beans still. So he's okay with the Triumph of St. Catherine coming at this point. But Andrew looks like a full grip of lands and not much else going on besides a Force Will in hand. He can play the Mystic Sanctuary, put the Lord Revealed back on top. He doesn't have enough mana to play that next turn. I wonder if he's going to choose that or if he's going to choose the Brainstorm. it looks like he's going to do the Lord Revealed. So Lord Revealed on top, swing over for 1, and we now have some action going on in this game. Connor's got it's like 2 Recruit of the Guards in hand, and I drew another land, it looks like, so he's able to keep the port going as well as playing the Thalia and leaving protection up for the Thalia as well with the Caracas. We've got a hard cast Force of Will here, and the Thalia is in the bin. And then we've got a Spirit of the Labyrinth follow-up. So looks like he used the Thalia to bait out that force and bring in that Spirit of the Labyrinth. So that Lorne Reveal that just got put on top has basically been turned off now. And untap draw, and then he's going to tap down that other Trop. So keep him off green mana, even though he knew that he could have Beans in hand, but he's been keeping him off green mana this whole time. So swing over for 1, and I wonder if we're going to see a pass back, because that Lorien doesn't do anything now. So pass back over to Connor, and I'm not sure what he drew, but he does have that Yorion in hand, so he can really start flying over and beating down if he wants to, and protect. He does have Recruiters as well. Recruiters are really good here because he can just keep Recruitering for Flicker Wisp, and then Flicker Wisp the Recruiters out to go get more Flicker Wisps and play that game as well. If he were able to find a Wasteland, he could do some Samwise Gamgee crazy nonsense. We've got a Spirit of the Labyrinth here, and that allows him to, as it's coming into play, if it resolves, he can name a number, and it can't be cast. So he named 6, which will turn off Terminus, as well as Leyline Binding. 2 really big cards in this deck that the Beans works off of. But, all right, pass back over. So, Signal Prelate on 6. Who would have thought that we'd, as D&T players, be playing that on 6? Now maybe he gets the Recruiters going. So there's a Mom, and Mom sticks around. That's really good for protection. And now we have some Recruiter shenanigans happening. See what he wants to find off of that. Maybe at this point he may be ready to go ahead and get the Stoneforge Mystic and actually start playing it. Tap down during upkeep. So much mana. And okay, he's getting a Lorien of the 3rd path. So pretty good all-star in Death and Taxes, as well as seeing a lot of play in Legacy sideboards for Boros Initiative. And then it's also, I believe, seeing play in Modern, either in the Hammer decks or part of the Hammer decks. But a good way to take out some Beans and also some Leyline Bindings. All right, so here we go with the Skyclave Apparition targeting the Bowmaster. And now we've got an open board, and it is swinging for 6 time. So Andrew on a 3-turn clock at this point, and Terminus can't be cast, Leyline Binding can't be cast, and all Andrew can find are Source of Plowshares at this point. A Pernicious Deed that he brought in would be ideal, but he's keeping him off green mana, finds the fetch anyway. A Pernicious Deed would blow this game wide open, especially if he deeded and then did it for 3, because it opens up all lines for his deck again. So here we come again for 6. Andrew went down to 5, and no Bowmaster would be okay maybe, but the Mom's still there, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. Andrew takes a peek at that top card. It is a Triumph of St. Catherine, so he can miracle that into play. That's a plus, but it just looks like Andrew has 3 more lands in his hand, and the Lord Revealed. So Source of Plowshare on the Triumph. Okay, it was back up to 8. So still has another turn after this one. What are we going to do? All right, just swing. That's 7, 8. All right, so on to game number 3.
If you've been enjoying our content, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
Welcome back to game number 3. Both players have kept 7, and Andrew is going to be on the play this game. See a turn 1 Ponder off of the Tropical Island that he plays. I don't think there's going to be too much difference in sideboarding from game 2 to game 3. Most players have already decided what they're going to like here. And Connor doesn't really play his based on this matchup with player draw in mind kind of thing. Ideally, he'd just like to get a turn 1 Vial out and then go on from there. So it's like he has a couple decent cards in his starting opener here and leads off with an Snow-Covered Plains, only because we don't have enough Doggo Plains for this particular matchup. So, see a fetch and then a port on the green, trying to keep beans off the battlefield like always. There's a Triumph in his hand, looks like from Andrew's hand. So, no, it's a Swords of Plowshare, Wasteland. Nope, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's a Swords of Plowshare with Force of Will. It's like double swords in there. No green mana again. Connor just trying to slow him down. There's that Pernicious Deed that we talked about with it being in the main, or coming in from the side. Andrew missing a land drop, which is a plus for Connor. And let's see if Connor can keep this going. And we're just going to play a similar game plan like we did in Game 1 and Game 2. Keeping him off of his lands until Connor can develop enough lands to then start developing his board. So something he didn't get to do in game number 1, as Andrew came out swinging very quickly. So like if he picked up another land here, he might be able to start building a board state that Andrew will have to work through. But if he didn't, then we're going to see, all right, there's a Spirit of the Labyrinth. Any Force of Wills coming from Andrew would be, all right, Andrew is not scared. Oh, he does have the 2 swords. So Connor's going to go up to 23 here and pass it back over. Probably going to take him off that green mana still during his upkeep and then allow Andrew to draw. So there's a Mystic Sanctuary, which he could play also and pick up that Swords of Plowshare or the Ponder off of the top of his library, which I would probably play the Mystic and put the Ponder on top. That way I can dig a little bit deeper looking for maybe some green mana or something like that. Connor with his Eva Elfie grip on the cards. It's a patented move. And all right, Murktide. So 3 mana, or not 3 mana, but it gets 2 counters on it, and it's a 5/5. So Connor now has 4.5 turns to figure this out. So 5 turns total. And let's see what we got. We have a Sanctum Prelate. See if this resolves. I bet he names 6 again, stopping that Leyline Binding and that Terminus, like we saw in game number 2. And hopefully that's what he names. And hopefully Andrew doesn't Force a Will this. So I know Andrew does have the 1 Force. I don't know if he has an additional blue card in his hand. One day soon, cameras will be available to me financially to be able to do that. And selfless plug, if you want to help expedite that to get more, to get cameras for the hand, then head on over to our Patreon and sign up. All right, we've got another Plains. All right, so Andrew has full mana here. Swing over for 5. Does have a Swords of Plowshare. He could just take out that Prelate right now and then do something else. And that is exactly what he's going to do. He is going to take out that Prelate. Now, Leyline Bindings and Terminus are back on the menu for the Beans player. And let's see if Connor can do anything now. There's that patented grip. Just does something to you, doesn't it? All right. That's a Samwise Gamgee. He could... All right, we got swords. He could play a Karaka. Oh. Hardcast Force of Will on the Swords of Plowshare targeting the Murktide. 1 mana. Does he have another one? That's the question. 3 mana. Recruit of the Guard. Alright, so we're going to try and get a Solitude, I'd imagine. That is what we're getting. Surprised Connor didn't go ahead and just try and fire that off during his upkeep. I can see that he has a Samwise Gamgee in his hand. Or Samwise the Stout-Hearted. So Connor could play the Solitude evoked let it die, and then play the Samwise, and then pick the Solitude back up so he has an additional Swords of Plowshare in his next turn, which would be a pretty good heads-up play, especially if it comes into play uncountered. Or, actually it comes into play and dies. So another 5, putting Connor down to 15. Not sure where that 3 points of life went for Connor, because I think he was at 23, but that's all right. 3 mana into a Pernicious Deed. That's a good holder for him to clear the board, because that Murktide costs so much, and he's not going to have to put that much mana into it. I guess Connor's being patient through this game and not flooding the board paid off for that Pernicious Deed not coming in and just absolutely wiping out the board immediately. So I wonder how he wants to handle this. So 1 white floating. He does have 2 Caracases in his hand, so he can make a little extra mana. Alright, so attack for 1 first before we do anything else. I can't imagine Andrew blowing it for 1 creature. And then we can see if he evokes the... Alright, so we've got a Skyclave Apparition coming out to get rid of this Pernicious Deed. Andrew... It's like he's going to go ahead and use that deed and just get rid of both of these creatures. He will not get a Spirit from the Skyclave Apparition because it hasn't physically taken the Pernicious Deed. So just a board clear, and then Caracas comes down. He could play Samwise here. All right, there's a Solitude. Pitching the Lion Sash. So it's a beautifully played turn, because he's able to do the Solitude as we discussed a minute ago, and then flash in Samwise the Stout-Hearted, and that's going to allow him to put that Solitude or that Recruiter back into his hand, or even the Caracas if he wanted. But he can bring back that Solitude and put it in his hand. He gets the ring, tempts him, and let's see what he decides he wants to put in his hand. Looks like he put the Recruiter back in his hand, so he's not too worried at this point. The Recruiter can go get another Solitude, so that does make sense, and it's an additional body on the ground here. He can always return that Samwise with the Caracas because it is a legendary creature for one piece or the other. Samwise bites the dust here off of his Swords to Plowshare, it looks like, and Andrew is just holding a Terminus now. So hopefully Connor doesn't try and go too wide here and get swept up by this Terminus, but we'll just have to wait and see. So he is flooding on colorless mana, but luckily he has the 2 white that he can play. He can Recruiter, go get a Stoneforge, and then potentially... Oh, all right, we got a Hardcast Batterskull. Batterskull resolves, Andrew says, and we are off. So, let's see what he picks up here. 2 white into a Leyline Binding, targeting the Batterskull. We've seen this type of play happen before. Connor does have the Recruiter, so he could go get Lorien off the Recruiter, play the Recruiter, get the Batterskull back, or Recruiter, go get Lorien, play Lorien, hit the Leyline Binding, and then get the Batterskull back, which is exactly what he does. All right, and then he's not too quick to... All right, so maybe we are doing the Lorien thing now. 3 and Lorien, hitting the Leyline Binding, getting him the Batterskull back. Now he does run into the chance of getting his board wiped here because of the Terminus that he has. So Andrew could play the Terminus. I'll see if Andrew plays two of those Mystic Sanctuaries. He only plays 1 Mystic Sanctuary. Ooh, I know a lot of these decks are running 2 just so they can buy that Terminus back with the second Mystic Sanctuary and clear the board. But it doesn't look like he's doing that. We've got Yorion and Recruiter going on the bottom, but damage is already kind of done in a way. The Germ is gone again off the Batter Skull, but we do have a Stoneforge Mystic in hand from Connor, so he can play that as well. So 1, 2, 3. Buys Yorion. And then 1, 2 can play the Stoneforge Mystic. It looks like it's a fail to find. So the Jeet probably came out, and we know the Lion Sash has already been used or pitched for the Solitude. So, and he has a Cauldron in hand. So Andrew's going to have to work pretty hard here to work through this. Him not seeing any beans this game is definitely making it a lot more fair for Connor. And we'll see Murktide being tossed out onto the board as a 7/7. Connor does have the Flicker Wisp in his hand as well, so he could flicker if he draws a white source, which of course he did. So with that white source, he has a Flicker Wisp. He can flicker the Murktide out of play, which he does. And then he can activate the Stoneforge and play a Cauldron, and then he can attack for 5 with a Cauldron. So good heads-up play there from Connor. And Murktide comes back into play. It's just a 8-mana 3/3 flyer. Another land for Andrew. Doesn't make sense for him to attack. Taking a look at Cauldron, reading, the wall of text that is on it. Not only does it have First Strike, it also has Trample. It also gives it haste. It also gives it, when a creature is dealt damage by the Germ, exiles that creature. So First Strike damage usually happens first, and it's able to take out whatever creature is blocking it. So, by the way, the Germ is also indestructible, and so is the Cauldron Complete. So, a few decent keywords on that particular monster, or monster maker, I should say. And we've got a Batter Skull that can be returned to hand and then replayed this turn as well. So we've got a Bowmaster. It can hit the Flicker Wisp, take that flyer out, which it does. And then we've got an Orc Army and a Murktide with a Bowmaster chilling on Andrew's side of the board. None of those can handle the Germ off of the Cauldron, and then we'll see another replay, a buyback of the Batter Skull and a replay of the Batter Skull from Connor at end step. And now we've got a 4/4 Germ lifelinker with Vigilance, and we've got the Germ on the Cauldron, which is absolutely disgusting. So Connor playing it pretty close here, and here we go. We're coming over for 9. So yeah, this one is just Vigilance and Lifelink, which can be double blocked by what's in play, killing the Germ, but Connor again can just return it to hand and then replay it next turn, or he can just equip it straight to the Germ that is on the Cauldron Complete, and now you've got a 9/9 Vigilance Lifelinker with all the other bullshit that it does too. So that's pretty good. Connor's going to try and just take him off of white mana at this point. So maybe he's trying to take him off black mana? Not quite sure. But this game looks pretty well in Connor's favor at this point. There's a Leyline Binding that can take out the Cauldron, and that'll drop the Germ off. He still has a Stoneforge Mystic Batter Skull that he has to deal with, but it will buy him a little bit of time. Not having any beans to draw any additional mana with is kind of tough. Just taking a moment to decide what's most important on this battlefield, which, in my opinion, is the Cauldron. And pass instep, we'll see a buyback replay of the Batter Skull. So it's back to a 4/4 on the board. It's like Hogak Nightmares, but not quite as big. And now we'll see an attack for 5. So Andrew can choose to block that 4/4, or he's just going to take it here and go to his turn and see if he can find something else. Another masterful play from Connor on this. So we'll see a Yorion come into play, Flicker, the Stoneforge, and the Cauldra. Cauldra is back into play and puts a germ back on there. So we've got defense up, we've got 25 life, and that is it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
If you've been enjoying our content, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.